going on, everybody? Welcome back to Think Outside the BlueBox podcast. This is season 3. We are starting season 3 off right with the cast and crew of a short film. They were here in season 2, and they're here to reprise their roles as BlueBox guests. Koura has been on the podcast quite a bit, so I'm going to introduce her, and then I'll let you kind of introduce the crew. Welcome to the show, Miss Koura Linda.
Thank you so much for having me back, Anthony. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for, choosing BlueBox to come back and promote your film. So why don't you introduce the other ladies that are on the call here, and we'll take it from there.
So next to me is Sarah Penn. She is a fantastic actress, editor, filmmaker, assistant extraordinaire. For this project, she was I almost gave a spoiler. She was an actress, an editor, and all around golden goddess of administrative assistance. And then the fantastic Stevie Collins, she was co-writer and lead actress, and also ASL consultant and general problem solver, helper, solution, make it happen within the week that we had to make this wild movie.
Nice. So speaking of the movie, you guys had the heist last year. This year's film is called The List. So I see a trend here.
I noticed that. I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah, I noticed that when you guys sent me the poster, and I'm like, okay, so the is a common theme. And they're both thrillers, right?
The heist is, I guess it is a little bit. It's more of a heist film. This is very much suspense. Like, that's the genre.
So last year, you guys were participating in a film festival for Easterseals, the organization for disability. This year, you guys decided to do the same thing. So what made you guys come back and do this film festival for a second time?
Sarah. Sarah made me do it. No, I'm kidding. She didn't make me.
It's her fault.
Absolutely. Her blessing.
What is it about this film festival that touches the three of you?
I was going to let someone else talk. I can answer it. Sarah, do you want to answer what made you push it in my direction in the first place?
We do a lot of different film things. We've done the 48-hour film challenge. We've done the OIF film challenges in Florida. We've done so many different things. But the cool thing about the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge is the disability focus, and really the focus on awareness and, getting people with disabilities in front of and into the important roles within film production, because if you look at a lot of the mainstream film sets, disability representation is still kind of something that is pretty lacking. And so this film challenge really highlights and gives people with disabilities the opportunity to step into these roles and to make films that show people with disabilities. And, representation is such an important part for our community and for really any community. If you don't see yourself represented in the media, then you often kind of feel othered and outcast. And that's the thing that I love most about this challenge, is that representation piece and the celebration of people with disabilities and all the great things that we can provide to the film world.
That's fantastic. And what is the criteria to have your film shown in this festival and be a participant?
You have to have at least one person with a disability, either in front of or behind the camera. We are us, so I think we had one person without a disability on set. And I think we had 3 people total on the project who weren't people who identified as living with one or more disabilities. You can develop the project conceptually once you get the genre launch, which comes in January. You're not allowed to do anything creative, no final writing, no cinematography, no shooting, no filming, no nothing until the launch. And then you have, this year we had between April 1st and April 6th to lock our script, do all final development, any pre-production, all of production, all of post-production, sound, color, score, VFX, captions, all of that, and then export it and upload it within the deadline. And you have required props, required locations, required themes that they give you when they launch.
So is it different year to year? How was it different this year than last year? What was the criteria there?
Well, last year was a buddy comedy and this year was a suspense thriller. I feel like some of the props were the same because last year a prop was a photo. What was that?
We had the hat and the photo last year, and that was, again, 2 of the props for this year.
Yeah, there was a little bit of overlap, and it's funny because we used our actual props from last year, like some of the photos, like we had a magazine with photos in it, and we had a black hat. And if you look really carefully in this film, you'll see some of our props from the heist. And on the photo wall in the very end, I don't know if we got it on camera, but there's a photo of me and Stevie on set at the heist, like on the photo wall.
I did notice that. And that was one of my questions was like, what kind of little Easter eggs? Because I know you're known for that, to kind of sneak some stuff in there. And I usually pause it and like look at the pictures, read the text and stuff, because you always sneak some stuff in there. What were some of the things that you snuck in there this year?
So there's a photo of me and Stevie.
I think there's a lot.
There's a lot, yeah.
But I even my daughters noticed it.
Oh, really? Her daughter's backs are in it. There's like, we had, so we used a lot of some of the props, and like the medical bills from the heist are in this movie, along with the magazine. The hat from the heist is in this movie. There's an Easter egg that's like not super an Easter egg, but like part of the dress that Stevie's wearing is the same dress worn by a character in another movie.
Okay.
So there's that. We had on the wall itself, we like put a bunch of like headlines and captions and stuff that like augmented the people whose photos we were using. Like one of my friends, his name's Courage. He's an activist who's currently working in Altadena with the fires there to help protect the neighborhood and prevent like big developers coming in. So there's an article about this activist in Altadena protecting, fighting the big real estate people coming in trying to like do really bad things. And he's also a furry, and he asked if we could put that he's a furry like on it.
That's great.
It's like in the article, and there's on one of his pictures, he's standing like this and he has like his tail. So it just says furry and like letters like across it. And there's one photo of somebody where they are wearing something that someone had been bullying them for. So we put the word that the bully had been using across their photo. Like that's like a deep cut. And then like Dr. Stephanie Van, who also is an executive producer this year, she has the Disability Clinic podcast and YouTube channel. And so she's a doctor who advocates for people with disabilities and just better healthcare systems in general. So we made an article about her on the wall and put like photos, and then her production partner for Disability Clinic is like his photos are like next to hers. We tried to like do stuff like that.
We wanted it to be like authentic and not, we just made up a bunch of photos and made up a bunch of terminology and a bunch of different disabilities. We wanted to use, with everyone's permission, of course, we wanted to use people who were experiencing things, what they were experiencing, who they really are as our wall, so that it got even more representation out there. Like Sarah was saying before, it was so important to us. So we wanted that to be in our writing, in our set design, and everything.
I just realized one of my favorite Easter eggs is actually that Sarah's on the wall, but she's on the wall as Sarah.
I did notice that.
Yeah, Daisy are on the wall.
I was like, wait, she's not wearing the wig.
Yeah, and we killed Daisy. It was really sad. I saved a lot of the photos, but the dead Daisy photo, I was like, I'm not keeping this. I'm throwing this away. I don't want this. We like extra.
Can't kill the Tiro dog. Can't do it.
Oh no, can't do that.
No.
So Stevie, I got a question for you. What does this project mean to you? Obviously, this is your second year coming back. What keeps you coming back? Are you just get kind of grandfathered in at this point with Space Dream Productions, or what keeps you coming back? What does this project mean to you?
I would do anything that she asked me to. But no, I particularly am kind of like bummed that I haven't been doing it since its first year of ever being done. Just because for me, I wasn't born with my disability. I started to lose my hearing at 19 and now I'm 41. So like I started to kind of grow into it, if that makes any sense. So it was where I started to learn the community the way anybody outside of the community would, and learned how to live with a disability and kind of taking those things one step at a time. And so I kind of started to learn about different places where I was being represented that I didn't feel like I fit into. Because I wasn't born deaf, I didn't feel like I was really part of the disability community until I started being put into it and started learning different things like this and meeting different people in the community, and then realizing, hey, you are the same as us, you just have a different perspective. And then being able to join Easterseals, I met so many other people and learned about so many other people's stories who were similar to mine, who wasn't necessarily as visible or weren't necessarily have them their whole lives, and really got to open up my horizons and broaden my horizons to be able to meet other people and learn other people's stories. And I think, and not to kind of repeat what Sarah said, but the representation of things like this is so crucial, because we are just looked aside. We're put aside. We're brushed under the rug, or we don't look that part. It's, oh, well, you don't look deaf, or you don't look like you have, this disability or that disability. It happens all the time. I mean, I even got told, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. Oh, it was on my plane ride back from filming this. The guy next to me, I just let him know, like, I'm deaf. I won't be able to hear anything that that you say to me. I'm just letting you know, like, if you start chit chatting with me and I ignore you, sorry. He went, oh, really? But you're so pretty. Cool.
What does it mean?
I wasn't sure whether to be insulted or maybe because I was on an airplane. Thanks for saying I was pretty on an airplane. I don't know. But it's these kinds of things. We need this stuff. We need Easterseals to be this massive, the Disability Film Challenge to become this massive thing. And we need it to broaden this representation. It's so important. And I want to continue to do it until I physically cannot do anything like it anymore.
That's great. So we can look forward to having you next year.
Yeah. They're stuck with me now. Fishing is stuck. I can't say like, oh, this doesn't fish you this year. I'm not too bad because I'm in it.
But yeah, put me in the background. Give me a secondary.
I'll help write it like I usually do. So I'll at least do that.
That's great. Now, a little bit of a personal question. You said you were born hearing and you developed the deafness over time. Did that give you perspective personally, something that you weren't expecting? Did people treat you differently than when you were able to hear?
Yeah, I think especially for people, and Koura is even actually one of these people who really knew me before it got really bad. And I don't want to use it as the term bad. I don't mean it in a negative connotation. I just mean it in the physical sense. Before it got to where I really needed more amplification and really needed interpreting services, that people who knew me before wouldn't treat me differently. And I mean that in a positive way. Like, I wanted to be treated differently so that I could still get the needs and that I needed. But I was worried they would just say, oh, well, you've been fine, so clearly you can still hear. Or you can still talk, so clearly you can still hear me. And it's like, well, no, we all get older. We all change. Things happen. People have accidents. People, like for mine was gradual because it's a sensory neural hearing loss. So it means it was damage that caused my hearing loss. And my dad is in a rock band and has been my entire life. And so I'm a baby of the 80s. So we didn't know anything about ear protection. And my mom was a groupie. So I sat front row center as a baby, and like every couple of days, my whole life, just no ear protection or anything. And so we didn't know that it was causing damage to my hearing until I was a teenager. And then we were like, oh, hey, actually, I don't hear those birds that are in that tree. Maybe I should get my hearing tested. And they told me it would gradually get worse as I got older. And then probably when I'm elderly, it'll like really hit me hard. But so when that started to change, I was worried that I wouldn't be accepted. I was worried that everybody would just assume it was the same, or maybe even thought I was faking it, or I don't know. It was really different. I mean, it's even changed since the heist to now. It is.
Really? How so?
That's even different. The way the sounds come in are slightly more distorted for certain decibel levels than they were last year. And it's just kind of the way my brain adapts and tries to adjust to things. Plus the technology that I have, it changes all the time. And so now my hearing aids that I have now are considered old. They kind of change the way cell phones do. So you get a few good years of it and then you really need new ones. But they're like $4,000 a piece. And insurance doesn't cover stuff like that. So it's good luck. I just have to wear them until they die and then try again. But I think my main concern was just not being accepted and not being able to explain the gradual shift and change in just disabilities in general. They are not necessarily always going to be the same for us. Like I know Koura and Sarah could both attest to, some days like they're set on spoons and some days they're not, but they look the same both those days. They look like the same beautiful humans they are now, but one day they're great and maybe another day they're not. And it's hard to get people to explain that. Or get to understand that, to explain that to people.
Yeah, especially somebody who's, always had hearing their entire lives. It's hard to put yourself in that person's shoes.
And sometimes I feel like I should hear something. because I used to, and then I don't, and I have to accept that fact in the moment sometimes that I don't. Like when when I was on the airplane, I used to be able to actually hear the announcements. I couldn't understand them. Like last year, I haven't been on a plane in a year. And so being on them this time, I could barely hear them at all. I couldn't understand them, of course, but I couldn't even hear them as much as I could last year. And that was a rude awakening for me when I first got on. And so it's kind of a gradual learning experience for me too. So I have to like both learn and educate.
Yeah, and you mentioned technology earlier. How has technology helped you with your disability? I know now as people are looking at you, you're looking down, yeah, because you have a transcriber going so that you can understand what we're saying. Yeah, and how has AI, obviously that's an AI app. How has technology and AI helped you? And how do you see that, kind of working itself out in the future where it's almost non-existent?
That's a grain of salt kind of question. AI is tricky because it's gonna provide me with some assistance, but at the same time, and under no circumstances replaces an interpreter. And I don't mean any down to, I'm not like dogging on anybody or anything for today, but like for example, there's an app called Convo now that provides live interpreting services anytime you need them. So,
Wow.
like, for example, I had to take my car into the shop. That is a very noisy environment. One-on-one with someone in a quiet environment, I get like 70% of what they say, and my brain can start figuring out the rest. But, or I could ask for clarification and it'd be easy for me to get it. But in, say, like the auto shop with the technician, there's no conceivable way. My brain does not separate the sounds that are all coming in, and that hearing aids can't do that either. So it's just bringing it all in at the same volume and the same level. So I used Convo now so that I get basically an interpreter on the screen of my cell phone, and I sign to that interpreter, and they voice through the speaker of the phone to the person that's there live with me, and then they can talk back. The speaker of the phone picks that up, and then the interpreter on the screen signs to me, and it's all through an app, and it's really awesome. I wish it was totally free, but we're not there yet. We're getting there. They're kind
We'll
of
get there.
stages, so we'll get there. The government will eventually, hopefully, catch up with that. But it's been kind of that kind of technology I didn't have even 5 years ago when I needed it. And so if I didn't have that, I had to write stuff down or text with my phone. And that's really all I had. And at the very beginning, before I had technology, before I had hearing aids or anything, I had to write stuff down on a sheet of paper. Like I didn't even have a cell phone. I'm that old. So I just had to write things on a sheet of paper and realize that, oh, hey, I don't have that. And it makes things longer, but things like this and having apps like Convo Now, or even just basic relay services that allow me to use a video phone or allow me to use my cell phone and make phone calls with hearing people with using a sign language interpreter. That's a game changer for me, because the problem that we have with deaf people is, as deaf people with hearing people, is if we're not in a situation where we can use that kind of technology, or where we have someone available to us to make that relay, is hearing people don't want to mess with us. We are a burden to them. They don't have time for us. And it's not that they're trying to be mean. We call it incidental autism, to where they're just not in a mindset to think of someone that's outside of themselves right now, that someone that might need more assistance with something, or might need just a little bit more time to have that conversation. They'll say things like, oh, don't worry about it, or I'll tell you later, or no, it's fine, or it's no big deal. And we get kind of pushed aside, when really, just if I ask you, I'm sorry, say that again, just say it again, or write it down, or say it a different way. And I try to be as especially as a teacher, I try to educate as much as I can rather than be upset about it. A lot of our community gets upset about it, especially those who were born deaf, who really spent their entire lives fighting this. I try to educate as much as possible, try to have as much patience as possible, but even then sometimes it doesn't work out. So having this technology at my fingertips, literally at this point, is very helpful for being able to educate quicker and getting to the point faster, to where then that person goes, oh, I didn't realize I was being insensitive. I didn't realize it. Because most of the time, that's why we call it incidental autism. Most of the time, people don't realize that they're being insensitive. They don't realize that they're being disrespectful. They just need someone to tell them real quick. And then they go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think of it that way. Even just something as simple as me asking the cashier at the grocery store to look me in the face. I'm sorry, can you look at me when you talk to me? I can't understand you if you don't, because I rely on that lip reading for places like that. And they usually go, oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, of course. And then they're able to do that. And I think with a lot of the disabilities that we have, just need that little extra piece of information, that little piece of extra education. And so things like even just the Disability Film Challenge can give people a little bit of extra information that they didn't have before in a way that they're going to enjoy anyway. It's not like they're being talked down to or they're being educated. They don't realize they're being educated. They're seeing it through enjoyment, but they are actually being educated. And so I think all of that technology, even what we're doing right here, right now, doing a visual podcast is a big deal. And everybody gets to experience that and learn more about us.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great answer. Now let's throw it back to Koura and Sarah. Did you guys experience any challenges or anything that on a normal film set you wouldn't experience?
I just recorded a 45-minute podcast about all the challenges that we...
Can we clip some of those?
Yeah, right. I'll put it this way. So we were screening The Heist at the Gasparilla International Film Festival the week before this launched. So all of the final prep, chasing up all those photos, getting all those release forms from people, figuring out like what locations do we even have options for, rounding up our sponsors, getting our sponsors contracted, chasing up the sponsor funds, figuring out where we were going to stay, what the meal planning was going to be, what transportation was going to be, making sure everybody's flights were booked and the car was rented. All of that was happening leading up to and during the week at Gasparilla. And I literally left Gasparilla, like it ended the 30th, and the 31st we arrived on the location. Starting on the 31st, Sarah's flight was canceled. Stevie's flight was delayed. They ended up, then we had like the rental car place was going to close. They were 90 minutes away from where we were at Orlando Airport. Like literally, like that was just the start. We all got to bed at 4:00 in the morning by the time they got there. I can go through but literally like it started with that. We got to the rental that we were staying in and there was no Wi-Fi and there was no signal. And when I say there was no signal, I mean like there was nothing around us for like 10 minutes in any direction but cows. There was no cell phone signal and the Wi-Fi wasn't working. I didn't book it, so I didn't have access to the person to find out. Once my husband and I got the Wi-Fi and everything working so that we could use our phones, then we got in touch with Stevie and Sarah, blah, blah, blah. That all got sorted. Once we were filming, it went through all the challenges of filming. We had to print those 150 photos for the photo wall. Every single photo place was closed or broken. Sorry. We put the order in ahead of time. We ordered it online. Like we took the photos after the launch on April 1st. We ordered the photos on April 2nd. Like took the photos for the film photos, not just the like archival photos. We took those photos April 1st, sent them to print April 2nd, got a notification on the morning of April 3rd when we needed them that the order had been totally just canceled. Couldn't find out why. Every single place that Spacey went to, the printer was broken. Literally a photo. Sorry, the printer's broken. Like I just was getting texts all day. The printer's broken. We finally got the photos. Like he had to go to, like we had to call around and find a place. He finally got a place. And in the middle of the print job, the printer broke. And he was like, no, fix it.
Right now.
It turned out it just needed more paper, but they had to find someone who knew where the paper was and where to get it and how to reload it. And it was like a whole thing. Then we got all the photos. So we didn't even get picture up for day 2 of filming. I think it was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And then we go back to the place we were staying and we went to do post. We had no internet. Like we did, but it was like I could walk you the file faster than the internet would transfer it. So all of our sound, all of our score, all of our captions, all of the animation, all of the VFX that we were being done in Canada, we couldn't get. So yeah, I could rant for 45 minutes.
How did you guys meet your deadline?
By the skin of our teeth.
But that's how we roll.
No, that is not how I roll. That is how these challenges can go. And
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we always get it done. No matter what they throw at us, we always succeed in the end. That's how we roll is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I see. I think I have gray hair like coming in.
We always make it the way we want to make it. We do what we need to do. Because we're in it to win.
You're able to meet the deadline. That's all that matters. Yep. Did it come down to like the wire, the last minute?
Oh, like seconds. Like forget it. It was no. I don't want to talk about it.
11:59.
Next question.
Trauma. Move on.
Next question. I plead the fifth.
Was there anything that had to be cut due to time limits, or anything that just didn't come together in the end that had to be cut that you wish would have made it onto the film?
So when I say that screen time and runtime, and script time. Those are nothing to do with each other. Sarah we started laying, like just assembling it and just kind of doing the string out.
Yeah.
And we're like, this is a 20-minute film. Like, this is not, it's like a 5-page script, like barely a 5-page script. There's like no dialogue, like maybe 10 lines in the entire thing. There's a lot of visuals. And it's like 5 pages. Like, it's a short little script. And I was like, 10 seconds for this, 15 seconds for this. Like, I was like, we're going to come in at like a 4. Like, I hope the film's long enough. Like, that's what I was thinking. We started assembling it and we were like,
we need to cut.
I know.
So-
This is gonna be long.
yeah, we already started on the, as Nolan intended, director's version.
The director's cut, yeah.
It's gonna be good though. Like, it's gonna be fantastic when it comes out.
Hopefully it still works. Like, it definitely goes by really fast, but that whole opening sequence is probably going to be 5 to 6 minutes. Just the establishing them in the room. Like, in the script, they're like trying to get each other's attention. They're trying to sign to each other. Their hands are tied. We see them trying to sign. We really hammer it in that they're deaf, which I think makes it funnier when she's like talking nonstop and he just like looks like, what the? Like, and the whole building up to trying to get the clock, they find the clock in the beginning and then she comes in and then drugs them and then they wake up and they're trying to get the clock and they can't. And then she comes in and they're like, oh no, is she going to realize that we're trying to get the clock? And then she leaves and they finally get the clock and then they break it and then they get out. So like that whole sequence is, it's long. So yeah, Sarah, I would not, could not, don't know how we did without her. Like, literally, like the two of us like sitting at the computer going like, okay, what are we doing? How are we doing this? Like,
Rock stars, these two. I don't do the editing part. That's not, you don't want me touching that. But like, it just seeing even what they can do in like an hour. I see, oh, like, look what we just did. I'm like, how in the world? It just impresses, they're just so good. I mean, Space Dream just as a whole blows my mind, especially when there's a limited amount of time. I can't even, there aren't even words for a podcast. There's not even words.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, as a fellow filmmaker, it's so impressive to see something come together so well in such a short period of time, and you do it consistently over and over and over and over again. This is not the only film festival that you do like this, so hats off to you.
that means a lot. Thank you.
And you keep giving credit to Sarah. Let's bring Sarah on. How was the production and how did everything work out from your point of view?
We definitely had some challenges, but I'm really like, Koura was saying, like, the way the story reads currently was absolutely not the way we had envisioned the story playing out. That being said, I do think it really works the way it's cut and it's impactful. And I think that is, super exciting when, you're able to make that like 90-degree pivot. Like, okay, we were going down this road and it is clearly not the road that we need to be on at this point. But, it's super cool to see the end result because, despite like them adding like 5 different hurdles to the race that we were running, it worked out. And so I'm very pleased with it. And it was, it's great working with Koura to be able to problem solve, because I think that's part of the fun of editing too, is being able to see how the pieces come together and, making them work and making like all of the different shots, like, okay, I have this and I have this, and maybe they're not meshing, and you say, okay, what else do I have? And you look at all your puzzle pieces and you say, oh, the corner's over here. I missed the corner. And then you're like, that's why it's not working. I missed the corner. And then it's just all that fun of putting together a puzzle just with, moving pieces.
I always say that the real storyteller is the editor, because it doesn't matter what you shoot on set, it will always come together in the edit. And you can rearrange it. You can make it, you can make the audience feel what you want them to feel with, your song selection and things like that. But definitely the editor is in control of the final product for sure.
It's why we always have the directors so involved in editing on our projects, because we know that. We like to leave the directors in a position of being able to continue to have their story, because so often, especially if you have an egotistical editor or an editor who kind of sees himself as like, okay, you guys did your thing, let me like move aside. And that's not a very collaborative space. It's one of the reasons why I love working with Sarah so much, because she's like if there was a word for like the opposite of ego, like that would be Sarah. Like she's all about like, okay, what was the story you were trying to tell? How can we do this? What, like, how do we put this together? How do we make this what it was supposed to be? And because she was involved from the beginning and literally like was a co-lead of the film, like was able to really like we were like, let's just get it on the timeline and then we'll use that assembly for like the extended cut and then we'll just chop. Like once it's there, we can just chop. And it was really fantastic to have her for that process because I would have cried a lot.
Happy tears, happy tears.
Great minds think alike.
Not happy tears, unhappy tears.
Well, and you guys have this connection and this collaboration, like you were saying. You know you can trust each other. You know that you're going to build it together. It's not going to be that, oh yeah, move aside. And that is such a big thing. And I think just kind of looking at the industry, that's so important for a production company to have that kind of relationship with each other. You're going to produce better films if you have that. And I think a lot of production companies don't get that. It's like, well, but this is the best person for this, and this is the best person for that. And then everybody's in their own bubble doing their own thing. And I feel like with Space Dream, even with me, I'm not in the editing part, but I always get listened to and I'm able to be a part of everything. I'm not just there to act. I get to be a part of the whole production in ways that I can, not like here, edit something. I'm like, okay, no, like I'm getting put in ways that I can help. And it really does become a full collaborative piece with all of the employees, all the people that are on the team for that film. And it's one of the reasons, not just the two of them right here, but it's one of the reasons I would constantly work with Space Dream for.
Oh,
I want more production companies like that. I wish the rest were like that.
Yeah, no, I always say that filmmaking is a team effort. It's a team sport, and you have to treat it that way because it's not a one-man show. I mean, looking at the credits on this film, I see Koura's name quite a bit. So it seems like it's a one-man show, but I know behind the scenes there's so much happening and so many people
there's
involved.
other names on there. There's
other,
as many
yeah.
names as there were
But
people.
it's on there quite a bit, though, Koura.
I can't help it if I co-wrote it and directed it and was the cinematographer
shot
and
it
gaffer
and
and production
yeah.
designer and edited it. Yeah. But I make sure that it is it's a co-credit. Like I'm not the only editor. Like Sarah and I are equally credited as editors. Spacey and I are equally credited as cinematographers. Like there's like, it's the only thing where it's like, okay, this is my vision is as the director, but that's why I'm the only person with director credit. Like everything else, it really is a thing. It's not just like, oh, that's cute. You can like kind of be here with like editor, Sarah M. Penn, Koura Linda. Like it's boom, boom. It's not just,
Yeah, because then when you treat it as a collaboration, everyone puts in their little 2 cents, right? So it's if it would have just been just Koura, it probably would have been a completely different film. But because you allow the collaboration and everybody to put their personality into the film, it turns into something better than you had probably imagined in the beginning.
Do one film like that once just out of curiosity to see if I could. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Do everything, be every actor, be every face, just run around in circles.
I wasn't the actors, but I did everything else. I did, yeah.
You could just AI clone yourself and just...
No, thank you. Not happening.
I think the best part about our film, about something not going the way we had written it, was the clock. And the clock, we
wrote it. We didn't know it was going to go the way we wrote it.
Right. We envisioned that we were going to have to take this clock and have this plastic face and, make sure that we didn't, spend a lot of money on a clock and break it and then add the sound to it and add some glass pieces because it's plastic and yada, yada, yada. But just kidding. We went to actually break it. It was actually glass, even though we were all tapping it. So, oh yeah, it's plastic. Gotta hit it really hard, yada, yada. Hit it like glass. I even think, Sarah and Koura, you have to
hit it a couple times.
If I'm wrong, that the sound that we actually got from it was the sound that we were able to use. It was the perfect glass shattering sound. And we were all shocked and amazed that it shattered perfectly. It visibly was perfect and sounded great. And even I heard it, and even Dan, both of us don't have very much hearing. We both heard that shatter.
Heard it.
It's one of those things where, hey, something worked out like even better. So now we didn't have to do all that extra work for it. it worked out great. It's my favorite thing that happened on set.
That's awesome. And now, Sarah, does it help to edit something that you've been on set for? I know for me, I shoot with an editor's mindset because I'm an editor. So like while I'm on set, I'm actually putting it together in my head, and I'm like, okay, I need this shot and this shot and this shot. Is that kind of like your workflow too?
So there are pluses and minuses. For this type of challenge, it is very helpful because I know what footage we have, as opposed to if I'm not on set, I don't know what shots were grabbed. I don't know what angles we had. I don't know, like, did we just shoot this as a wide? Did we get like all these? And I have to take the time and watch through every single thing just to get familiar with it, not even to like necessarily fully analyze everything from that editing perspective. You have to like first take a inventory and then go in and say, okay, what can I use where? Whereas opposed to this, you can kind of skip the inventorying thing and say, okay, where is that shot? How does it look? Can I use it in the way
I already
I
know
want
it's
to?
there. Yeah.
The downside of that can be if you have the on-set biases, which can come in if you like spent 20 hours and $5,000 and whatever to get a specific shot and you're looking at it and it doesn't work. From the editing perspective, it's a lot easier to be like, hey guys, we got to nix that if you don't have that like blood, sweat, and tears poured into it. I have to say personally, not to toot my own horn, but I do think I'm pretty good about saying, like, even if I was there when all the blood, sweat, and tears went into it, I can say it's just not working. But I know a lot of times for editors, it's very, very hard if they were on set to then be like, I gotta cut the shot because it doesn't work. So that's where I think that can be problematic. So for this type of challenge, yes, absolutely. Otherwise, it's not a need.
How does it feel to not play the bad guy? Well, I guess you kind of are, right?
Wait,
oh yeah, I'm still
she's
the bad
literally
guy.
a serial
Always the bad
killer.
guy.
Who are you asking? You are talking to two serial killers. Like, which one of them is not a bad guy?
It's the good bad guy. It's the unexpected bad guy.
So you mean Stevie or you mean Sarah? Because Sarah's pretty bad.
Sarah's just bad.
Yeah,
She's killing people with disabilities.
2 years in a row, and I'm leaning the bad side.
2 years in a row, yeah. There's a
She's not
trend.
a bad guy. Queenie's a good guy.
Oh, I mean, she's bad, good, bad. I don't know what the bad order is.
She's like lawful evil, I feel
Yeah.
like. Or she's chaotic good, but she's definitely not evil.
Well, she's not like bad, but she's not the good in that movie. Like if we were like to like, that. Yeah.
She's definitely she colors outside the lines, but it's for a good cause.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Mildred is just a serial killer.
Mildred's just a serial killer.
No, there's no redeeming qualities. I mean, she's got like a cute cardigan, and I like the socks, so
I like her outfit.
how about that?
Mildred has cute socks. That's the redeeming quality for Mildred.
Notably absent from this call is Daniel. How was it like working with him? How did he get brought onto the project? And, what did he think of it?
I think it was great. I mean, I don't know exactly how I got brought onto the project. I don't know how we talked to him.
So Dan came onto this project because I directed a film with Rain Burton, who assisted with production on this project. She hired me to direct a film called Love of Music, which starred Dan and that film was also in ASL, and he played a deaf character in that film. And he's really, really talented as an actor, and he was super great to work with. So when we were kind of figuring out what we would do for this film, and we came up with the idea of the whole serial killer capturing two people who are deaf. Pro tip, if you're working with real deaf actors and the scene setup has their hands tied behind their back, do not actually tie their hands if you still need to talk to them.
That was a bit.
I was like, okay, so, and then I looked, and I was like,
He can't reply.
Moment is an educational moment. Every
yeah. So we got the shot, then we untied their hands. But I thought it'd be great if Stevie acted across another deaf character and if both the characters were deaf. So I reached out to Dan and asked if he'd be interested in working with me again and in being in this film. And he said yes. I will say I've never gotten so many people reaching out to us about a role once we announced this project. I literally had people like calling me, like Stevie was talking about using the relay service. Like literally someone called Space Dream Productions and was like, hi, I'm a deaf actor. I would love to be in your movie. Is it already cast? And I was like, I'm sorry, yes. But yeah, honestly, we just did this super quickly because we found out from you like yesterday that you were available to record today. I actually was at a funeral all day today. It's why I'm in all black. So I literally came back from the funeral and I'm sitting here doing this. So there just wasn't a lot of time. I did reach out to a couple of ASL interpreters. I was trying to figure out what we could set up. I just didn't have the time to do it, unfortunately.
So other than the hands tied behind the back, what other like disability related challenges did you encounter on set? If at all? I know all three of you, use ASL and everything, but like I'm sure there was some sort of obstacle.
It wasn't a challenge, but just I like mentioning this because I feel like all projects should do it. We send out an accessibility and accommodation survey prior to filming. So we get people's allergies, dietary preferences, etc. So like at the house where we were staying, in the fridge, there was regular milk, oat milk, and almond milk. There was sugar-free food. There was regular food. There was fruit. There was like, things with gluten, things without gluten. Like there was the whole kind of gamut. And then like one of the people on set was allergic to grapes. So the fruit snacks that we had didn't have any grape juice in them. We just made sure that one person's allergic to bananas, so we just didn't have any bananas on set just to be safe. So like we just made sure to accommodate in that way. For me, it definitely was like mentally and physically challenging because I was coming from that week at Gasparilla directly into this, starting with that 4 a.m. going to bed after the stress of their flights being canceled and delayed and everything. And so I didn't get to start refreshed and mentally charged. I started very rocky, and that just some like physical challenges with my body made it very extra hard for me because like when you direct, you don't just get to direct, you also have to smile and say thank you and make sure people feel appreciated and like all of these things. And when you're in pain and when you are exhausted and when you want to cry, you don't want to stop and smile and tell people like, hey, you're doing a great job. Like I want to, it just might not be in my head. And when I'm trying to mentally navigate, because I don't have time to like line up all the shots and figure out what we're doing. Like I could do it a little bit, but I'm very weird. Almost never shoot with a shot list. Almost never, ever, ever storyboard. I just have it all in my head. Never. So I think I've storyboarded maybe a couple of scenes. I don't think I've ever storyboarded an entire film, like ever in my life.
Wow.
And I've done previs, like for action sequences, like for Names on the Wall, we did a whole day of prep with the actors because that's a very intense fight sequence. But I didn't even have a shot list. Like I forget about not having an AD. Like I knew we were filming this scene and then this scene, but it's all in my head. And we didn't miss any shots. Like the coverage is all there. We have everything. We have all the alternate takes. We have all the coverage. We have all the scenes, all the action. I'll pull up the script sometimes to like double check, but it all just goes into my brain and just stays there. And that's just how I work. And someone could be like, oh, that's risky or that's insane. Like what? It's just how my brain works. Like, I'm sorry. I've done like over 30 movies.
You've done it so much.
It works. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it works. I wouldn't recommend it. It's dangerous. It is a little risky.
Especially
but for
with
something
a time
like
constraint like what you guys had to work with. Like, it could have gone very horribly wrong.
Except it kind of went better because I didn't take the time to draw a storyboard and make a shot list and like masticate over all the different possible camera angles. Like, I just knew what I wanted in my head. And because I was the one filming it, like with Spacey, it was really easy to be like, okay, this is the next shot, this is the next shot, and just go through, okay, we need this coverage, we need that coverage. And it just kind of like goes. I mean, with The Rush, like we also didn't slate anything. Like we kind of just, and it's fine because like we're editing it. Like I know exactly what each of these shots are. I just filmed it 2 days ago or yesterday. Like I was right there. So it's a little bit of a different, and I'm not saying people should do that. I'm just saying that the way my brain works when I'm on set is that's just how I function and it's just how my brain rolls.
It's your
So
process, yeah.
It's just how it works for me. And like, okay, to any like potential future investors out there or like collaborators, obviously on a multi-million-dollar project or on a feature, I do not do that. Like when we did Catching the Light, I may not have storyboarded, but everything was shot listed. Like that was much, 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 much more planned. I would never do that on a feature, ever. But for this, that's just how my brain works when we're on these like rapid fire projects. And then to be doing that on low sleep, in pain, already kind of struggling with like emotional conflicts, like it becomes really hard. And you have to kind of push all that aside and just get through it. And you might, you don't have the space to just break down and start crying. You don't have the space to say, forget it, I'm sleeping in today because I want to. Because if I did that, then there's
It wouldn't
there's
get
no
done.
one there's no one above me to catch it.
So if you guys can go back and redo this entire project, what would you do differently? What?
I would tell them that the challenge is not enough time. We need more time so we can make big old films. Because we have so many ideas and plans and thoughts and skill sets that we want a challenge that allows us the time to really make something just epic with all the time that we have. And that's, I think that's, for me, that's the only downside. And I'm not only speaking for myself here, about the Easterseals Disability Film Challenge, is that it's asking so much out of such a little amount of time. And that can be very difficult with people with disabilities. That can be very difficult with people without disabilities, let
Agreed. Yeah.
alone throw it our way when we have all sorts of different challenges. And with our team almost always wanting to be completely full or nearly full and represented with several different people with disabilities, it can be an extra challenge. And so I would love to see us get like a pseudo challenge or an in-between challenge where we get to then take an idea and be given, a much larger amount of time and see imagine we've seen all these films, and every year, not just our own films, but we see all these different films, and what we all can produce in this short amount of time. Imagine if we were given all these feature lengths amounts of time. Imagine what we could make. Like, we want that opportunity. And I'm hoping that this kinds of challenge will lead us all to those opportunities.
That should be part of the competition, right? Like if you win the competition, you get a budget to make the full version of the film, right?
You get a grant. If you
Oh, is
win,
that a
there's
thing?
different categories, but you can get like up to $20,000 in different. Yeah, the cash prizes for this competition are insane, for lack of a
Wow.
better word. And it's, on what Stevie said, it's hard because like this one, I went into it and I was like, I'm going to write the simplest script. And we're going to make it super simple. We can like go big on production design. It'll be kind of cool to like make this like create, like that was a random white walled, white doored, like that was boring,
There's
but
nothing in it.
basic rental apartment, like it wasn't like, it did not look like that. The stairwell, the kitchen, none of that, the murder wall, none of that. On our social media, on our Facebook, the Space Dream one, you can see the before and after photos of the set dressing. I knew we were going to do extensive set dressing, but we had the hands on set, like we had PAs and people to do it. And I wanted to write a story that was just really simple and easy to film. And while we did that, suspense is not my genre. It's not, I hate watching suspense films.
Really?
Yeah, oh my God. So it wasn't like, it's not something that I have super familiarity with. And I feel like if I was a more seasoned suspense director, I would know. Again, I need to just remember that it's a lie, page count equal. Like I just need to stop. Because I'm like, well, maybe like, how can I be right and the entire industry be wrong? I don't know, but apparently I am.
Apparently.
And I need to remember that the Quiet Place script, it's like 60 or 70 pages. And it is a very long movie. Like it is not a 60-minute
Wow.
movie. And it's because the point of suspense is those long
The drawn
moments.
out moments.
And I knew that as an editor. Like I've edited suspense stuff, and I did like a collaborative project once that Stevie was actually in many moons ago with like zombies and stuff. But it was like all of us together doing it. I was the director, but I wasn't. We all were the director. It was just like a bunch of drunk friends at a lake making a movie. About a year before I got sober. Anyway, but that like, I wish I knew that going into it, because I would write a film much different. And I think knowing what I know now, and now having done a suspense film, because we did one like kind of thriller film a couple years ago called Drawn Apart. And it was more in the dialogue and what was happening. It had like a couple of like moments, but it wasn't the suspense like thing. And I know as an editor how to balance those like really long moments with the kind of faster moments, and like give the audience something and like, oh, and now it's like we're waiting again and what's going to happen, and now this happens, like that. That's how you edit that type of film. But I think knowing what I know now, and now that I've done it, if I had the opportunity to do it again, I would just write a completely different script, and I would probably make it, maybe the entire script is just them trying to get out of that room, or like something so simple or so, I don't want to say basic, but it's one of the things that kind of like, I don't want to say annoys me, but I find frustrating and disappointing about these challenges is they reward simplicity. They reward basic because, and I feel awful saying that because if we don't get nominated, then I'm going to sound like I'm jaded. And if we do get nominated, I'm going to sound pretentious and I'll be wrong, but which is fine. But it's like the amount of work that we did and the mountain that we shot for, what I would hope happens is someone would look at that and be like, wow, imagine if this team had a full team. Imagine if they had a full budget. Imagine if they had more than 5 minutes to tell this story. Like, I want someone to look at the amount of work that we did with the animated captions, the unique costume designs for everybody, the full location setup, the intensity of that murder wall, we had a whole fight sequence, like the sound design, that all of these different pieces that we put in those 5 days. I wish that part of the challenge was also how creative can you be and how much can you do, and not how simple can you make it? Because Spacey and I were literally just talking about that, and he was like, you have to dial it back. Like, some of our best 48-hour films have like 2 characters in one location.
Very
Because
simple.
it's easy, it's simple. And it's like, okay, yeah, someone could argue, well, that's low budget. This was low budget. Like, this was nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I think some of the best films ever made have been just one actor doing a monologue the entire time in one location. Yeah, the simplicity of it really doesn't matter when it comes to the quality of the output, the quality of the film.
It shouldn't be rewarded for being simple. You know what I mean? Like, it should, if you want people to showcase the diverse skill sets required, I would hope that I'm not made to tone it down to succeed. I would hope that any filmmaker who goes all out across the boards with complex cinematography and, complex writing and like detailed characters and like dialogue and unspoken dialogue and like these moments, and like any filmmaker, I'm not saying us, I'm just saying literally any filmmaker that does all of that, that's what makes a powerful film. Like, yes, there are like, the monologues, like, okay, that's cool and whatever, but like, some of the most incredible films. I mean, look at Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
Talk about a complex film.
That is the opposite. Yeah.
Literally, Back to the Future, one of the most iconic movies of all time. That movie is every genre. Like, it's every genre.
Literally.
So, like, how do you, on the one hand, I hope that film challenges looking to amplify the voices of independent filmmakers reward the brilliance of independent filmmakers. I'm not saying like, oh, we're brilliant. Anybody who can, like, we dressed that one wall with that wallpaper. We then pulled off that wallpaper and we put it in the hallway. We then pulled off that wallpaper and we put it in the kitchen. Like, those bins, we moved them from the storage room into the kitchen. We put them in the murder wall room. Like, if that was a big budget Hollywood film, they would have budgeted a week for set dressing, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. They probably would have used real wallpaper. They would have individually wallpapered each space. They would have gotten bins for each space. You don't have to do that. Like, you can be creative and use ingenuity within a budget, within a creative, like, flex.
Shows your creativity, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it kind of like, I do wish we had more time, because if I had even an extra 3 days or 4 days where I could have spent a couple more days prepping and a couple more days in post, the filming part was easy. We did that. I can film all day. That's easy for me. But to truly craft a perfect edit, and I understand, judges have to watch everything. If they're watching 20-minute films and there's 100 of them, we'll see them in June when they're done watching all the movies. Like, they're not finishing in the judging window. So I understand the time crunch, but doing it again, I would probably make it even shorter and even simpler. But then I look at the story and I think, what part am I going to take out? The after part, the part where they're talking? Because I think even Spacey said, he was like, what if you just cut that? And I felt like Greta Gerwig after Barbie going, if I cut the bus stop scene, I don't know what this movie's about anymore.
Yeah.
Like, if I cut
everything
the
falls
moment,
apart.
Yeah, like, that's where we find out, like, these are serial killers going after people who are hurting people. And like, that's what the movie's about. So if I cut that, now it's just a suspense film. and maybe I could use those minutes to establish something else. So,
I think
and
they
not
intentionally leave it vague just to see people's creativity and
what they make.
what they do with the constrictions that they give you,
Well,
or the
and I
constraints.
think that if they were then rewarding some of the most creative ones, that would really hone in for all of us. Kind of, this is what they're looking for. They want us to think outside of the box and really see what we can do and what we have the ability to do. And I feel like, kind of what Cor said earlier, there's some that is just, some simplicity is being rewarded, and I am not necessarily hating on that, but I'm worried about what that will represent, what that will show the abled community. It will show them that this is really what they expect out of us, and this is as simple as in the best that we can do. Because the abled community is not necessarily watching every single one of those films, but if they see these films got these awards, that's what they're going to go see. They're going to see simple as what we can do, and that's the wrong direction. And I don't think it's on purpose. I don't think that's absolutely not their goal, but it could be an incidental thing that happens, and we really, really don't want that. We want to have the fully bodied, fully abled community see that we can make just as complex, just as interesting films as anybody else. You give us the time, you give us the resources, we're going to blow your minds. And we want to make sure that any type of challenge like this sends the right message. And so I think that's really important for us. And that's why I think Space Stream Productions especially is really making sure that everything that we produce, regardless of what we're being asked for, everything that we produce is the best of what we can do.
I don't know, Sarah, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, Sarah, if you could go back and do it all over again, what would you do different?
Those are two different questions. I'll answer your question first about, what would I change? Just from a like stress inducing perspective, I think I would nudge to maybe select a different rental. Not because the rental was bad, it was great. It was a really like nice house, a cute area, but for our needs, film challenge specifically, there were some added levels of stress that with certain Wi-Fi and just being in a remote location that we didn't have as good of access to the internet, that would be.
It did say that it had fast internet. That was one of the things in the listing.
Okay, I didn't see
that
that.
We checked. I'm gonna like message the host next time and be like, "Hi, to confirm, define fast."
Yeah, and I think for our needs, that's an important thing. Is we're learning different boxes that we need to check beforehand too, and we, as in kind of just everyone living in 2025, is a little bit privileged in that we aren't thinking as much about like internet connection the way you were like 5, 10, 15 years ago. And so we kind of assume, if something has Wi-Fi, okay, it is going to work the way it works everywhere else. And that's not always the case. There are still places that, work better than other places. Some have the high speed, some have not as high speed, things like that. That would be my my 2 cents on going back specifically. Just because I don't think that was super helpful, and I think that it just added a layer of complexity to the shoot that we were already trying to produce a complex project, whether that was the intention or not. And that ended up being what we were doing.
Challenges. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of answering the question about the challenge and, expectations, it's interesting to me coming from like a pageant perspective, because sometimes you enter into a competition and they aren't very specific about what they're looking for, or, they say the classic line of just be yourself. And I think that can be super frustrating, but I also look at it from the perspective of people who are just entering these spaces for the first time. And there is kind of hope in making something simple because it looks obtainable. It looks like something you can approach and you can do and you can check the boxes. And, maybe at the end of the day, when you're looking at the different videos, you say, okay, our audio wasn't the best, or maybe we could have framed this shot to be a little bit more, exciting. But, that basic entry level of like, not like super high expectations or like least listed out can give people that, I can do this too. And I think that's also something that's very needed, because there are a lot of times that people with disabilities will look at a space and say, I'm not welcome. Why bother? And I like that this challenge doesn't do that. There is no like, everyone is welcome. And I really appreciate that side of things. And so I think there is, when you come at it from the professional expectations perspective, it can be hard and it can be difficult to say, why don't you just tell me what you want? But also from that flip side of that may not be attainable for some people. So I like that it's not creating a barrier.
Yeah, it's vague enough that, anybody can interpret it however they want and,
Exactly.
submit something that, they're proud of. We'll end with this. I know we're a little bit over time, but I appreciate you guys' time. What do you guys hope that people walk away from, not just your film, but the festival, knowing that they wouldn't have known going into it?
Don't look at us as, that token to check off. Like, oh, yep, got the token disabled people. Or as second fiddle to where, well, we could have this person, we could have that person, but this person doesn't have a disability, so it's going to be easier to work with them, so we'll just go ahead and pick that one, even though maybe the person with a disability actually is the better choice. And I say that with jobs too. Like, these are jobs. We're being hired for these things. It's a overall problem. And I think I would really like to see challenges like this, and especially in filmmaking, we're not second fiddle. We shouldn't be placed there. We should be the same line as everyone else and try out the same way everybody else does. Looked at the same line, same plane of existence as everyone else. And then sometimes we're going to win that spot, and sometimes we're not. But it won't be our abilities that get us there. It'll be our talent that gets us there. It doesn't get us there. And that's what I really want to see out of challenges like this.
For me, I want people to look at it and see that people with disabilities can, and fill in the blank after can, because we can direct, we can act, we can edit, we can produce, we can write, we can, be the cinematographer, we can be the production designer or the set dresser or the gaffer. We can and we should be a part of, these spaces, and we should be, in society and included and brought in and heard and seen and respected for our work. And so it's so very cool for me when I see all the different films and all the awesome productions that are created, because that is the proof that people with disabilities can.
I will just add to my earlier answer. The winning film last year, when we saw it, I was literally like, if this film doesn't win Best Picture, because we watched almost all the films last year, I was like, if this film doesn't win Best Picture, this whole competition's a scam. Like, that's what I thought when I saw it. It was so good.
It's rigged.
It was so good. Like, it just checked every single box. For the best picture category. And I was really like, I was like, if we win, I'm going to get up there and be like, this film should have won. Like, there was no way I would have been okay with that. So I was very happy when that went. I want to make sure I didn't sound like whatever about what I was saying earlier. What I want people to take away from this specifically is I want them to know that disability can be included in stories without being tokened, without being made like, you can have a story where people are disabled, where it isn't about them being disabled. Like, the fact that they were deaf, other than the fact that they were targets because they were deaf, but the fact that they were deaf has nothing, like, they didn't talk about like, oh, because we're deaf, she's trying to kill us because we're deaf. I can't talk to you.
Them being deaf, yeah.
Yeah, like, I can't talk to you because my hands are tied because I'm deaf. Like, it's not like that's so many like representation stories are just about that thing. And it's like, but that's not how people are. Like, people who live with disabilities, they're people. And there's nothing like, the only thing unifying about us is that we're all pissed that and not even all of us, some people are like, okay, yeah, whatever. A lot of us are pissed that at the like, being put into the corner or pigeonholed or whatever, but we're just people. And I would like people to see that you can include people who are disabled playing roles of people who are not disabled. Like Mildred, she is not disabled. Like, we did make a joke that maybe she was dyslexic with the whole DEI die thing, but that was kind of like an inside joke on set. But as far as the character goes, she's not disabled. Sarah, as a person with disabilities, was totally able to play somebody who's able-bodied. Sarah even did the action sequence. Like, that was Sarah. There was no stunt double. Like, that was all her.
That's awesome.
And so like the fall down the thing, you know, they're lying there dead. So I want people to understand that, like, you can tell, like, include someone with a limb difference or who's a wheelchair user. You never have to mention the wheelchair, ever. You never have to mention the limb difference. It's not about that. It's
not
about the
that,
person. And I want the story and the character. And yeah, we have that twist in the end. And yeah, we have like the message of like, as long as we're alive and we keep fighting back, we have something to fight for because we're here. Because we exist, we need to keep fighting. But that's just because it's Space Dream Productions and that's like our vibe and our brand. And I'm not going to make a suspense or thriller film that doesn't have like a yay thing at the end. But like, I really want people to just enjoy the movie and not have it be like it's open captioned or it's this or it's that or it's DEI. Like, no, it's just a movie. It's a scary, tense movie about a serial killer who gets their butt handed to them on a plate and the heroes escape. And then that like moment in the end where you're like, is he twirling the bloody glass? Like, he's excited about the next murder because he likes cheesesteaks. Like, what? Like, that's what I want people to take away.
That's great. And from an able-bodied person, I really appreciate everything you guys are doing, giving everybody perspective because it is very much needed, especially in Hollywood. It's such a closed-off industry, and it needs this kind of exposure. There's a lot of stuff going on. I won't get political or anything, but you know, with some of the movies that have come out recently that are non-inclusive or just trying to be inclusive while, you know, making bad choices. So again, thank you guys for what you do. As long as you guys keep making movies, you can keep coming on the podcast and chatting with me. I love this.
Thank you so much for holding space for us. It means a lot to be accepted in a space where it's not like, well, obviously I'm a disability focused podcast. Come talk about your film. You're literally just like, hey, I make movies. Come talk about your movie. And that means a lot to us. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And thanks again, ladies. Your time is very much appreciated. And we will see you guys next time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.